Let me hit you with some stats. 23 years old, 52 million in volume, $1.3 million in commission checks, and that's just last year. And the man behind it, Will Van Wickler, a straight up listing beast who's built a predictable, repeatable lead funnel using just 200 people in his database. He doesn't buy internet leads. He doesn't spend his days cold calling. He focuses on one thing: appointments. Every single week. In this episode, Will breaks down how he built a listing-first business model that leverages golden letters to book listing appointments like clockwork. So if you're tired of unpredictable lead flow and chasing deals, this episode is your blueprint to creating a consistent, predictable listing lead funnel so listings come to you instead of you chasing them. Let's dive into the systems that makes this happen on the Listing Beast podcast. All right, everyone. Well, I'm super excited. We are here with the one and only Will Van Wickler. And Will, first of all, welcome to the Listing Beast podcast. We're excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Excellent. Well, Will, on the Listing Beast podcast, what we really focus on is breaking down top listing agents and trying to deliver as much value as possible to all the aspiring listing beasts out there. And in doing that, we break it into three simple categories. That first category, Will, is how do we provide an exceptional seller experience so that we can deliver the best overall value so sellers can sell for the most money in the least amount of time with the least amount of headaches, And in doing that, make sure that we secure our individual value, right? So we can really focus on our per deal compensation. The second, Will, and this is one of the big ones, is we don't want to make a bunch of cold calls, right? We know making cold calls sucks. We want to make sure that we have a database-driven, relationship-driven business. And you're a very, very strong pro at doing that, which I'm excited to talk about. And then the third, and why we're so excited to have you on today, is how to create a listing lead funnel that you own, that you don't rent from another company, that you don't buy all these leads and have to do all this crazy stuff. We really are excited to talk to you because you are a master of a listing lead funnel. And so with starting that off, Will, I want to first ask the simple question. Right now, what are your top two listing lead sources? What are the top two that you focus on every day to set listing appointments every week?
Yeah, the biggest two right now are people we know, so sphere of influence, and that could break into a couple things, either past clients, referrals of people we know or relationships that we have. That's huge for us. That gives us at least half of our listings. And then the other is the bucket of the golden letter. So fall into the MOFR category, which brings us a really high return on our investment for new listings taken and bringing opportunities to our builder clientele, which would be the third one there. But it's really golden letters and SOI. Okay.
Golden letters, SOI, and builders. So in doing that, I've had so many of our members, they've watched your previous videos on our YouTube channel. They've heard the previous podcast. And so we're always going to start out with golden letters because people are just fascinated with it. And they also, I've watched some do it really well, and I've watched some others just completely not have any success with it. And Will, you said something earlier about a MOFR, and some people don't know what those acronyms are. So just for everyone listening, MOFR is make offer for immediate response. And so let's just start there, Will. When you think of that phrase, MOFR, make offer for immediate response, why did you decide to go the route of golden letters? And can you explain for the people that have never heard what a golden letter is, the concept of the golden letter?
Yeah, what was so attractive to me about a MOFR-based business model is I didn't have to wait for business, right? So I'm making an offer for immediate response. I'm not making an offer for a delayed response. An example of a delayed response would be farming, right? I need to send a piece of mail out for 6 to 7 years before typically seeing a response in a geographic farm. I didn't have time to wait. I needed to make money today. So by making an offer for immediate response, what I'm doing is I'm pre-qualifying the prospect, right? It's either yes or no. Do you want to sell your house? Yes. Great. Let's meet. No. That's fine. Tell me more about that. 6, 8, 12-month nurture. That's fine. But there's two buckets. Yes or no. It's like playing the lottery. I explain it to people. You either win or you don't. Let's not talk statistics, but that's the scoop. So when I was doing my research into listing lead generation, I found this MOFR theory and just started going into MOFR-based listing lead generation. There was, home value leads. You could do radio. You could do TV. I didn't have money to spend, so I went the mail route and I found a proven model and system through KW called the Golden Letter, which was not created by me. And I just followed the model. It's a simple piece of paper that just says, Dear Will, would you sell your house at 123 Main Street to a client of mine? If so, call me on my cell phone. You send them out. You'll get some people that say yes, some people that say no, take me off your list. That's fine. We convert some of those calls into listing appointments and eventually sell the listing off of a very simple piece of mail that's just asking a question.
I love it. I love it. So, okay. So, in breaking that down, so when they hear the word golden letter, the reason that you decided on that instead of going expireds or for sale by owners or client appreciation events. So, just to understand that it was a lot of to do with budget, right? So, like you said, you weren't really at a place to put radio ads and TV ads and do all of this. So you looked at it and you said, okay, someone said that this is working. I'm going to listen. I'm going to take it. And then let's talk about from that simplistic point, we're going to talk about where it started and then where it's gone to. So that letter, and I know you make it sound very simple, and I've seen the templates, and we'll share all that with the audience and certain things to show them some examples. But when we look at this, where people seem to be getting caught up is they're going, okay, so I'm going to send a letter, Will, to 300 people in a neighborhood. And I'm positioning this stating that I have a buyer for their home. Is that what the letter is stating? Or does the letter just say, do you want to sell your house? Yes or no? Like what's the psychology behind the letter?
Yeah, it just simply says, would you sell your house at 123 Main Street to a client of mine? If so, call me on my cell phone. So it's dear, their name, would you sell your house at whatever to a client of mine? If so, call me on my cell phone. So all I'm saying is, hey, would you sell your house to a client of mine? Right? I'm not promising them a price. I'm not promising them a term or timeline. From there, they're going to call me and we're going to have a conversation. And it all comes into mindset. I know I can find the buyers for these homes. I just need to find the sellers. And as a fiduciary, I owe it to them to get the most amount of money in the least amount of time, which 99% of the time means putting their home on the market. So it's not like you're calling a FISBO and saying, hey, I need to tour my buyer around, and you're lying to them. You're just bringing a solution to the sellers and seeing if they'll call you and starting the conversation from there.
Right. So that's where I think people get caught up is they're going, well, I don't have a client to buy this house. So am I acting in some sort of malicious or slimy way, douchey way or whatever it is? And when you just said there, which I think I want everyone to understand is we no matter what are just trying to find out if they have interest in selling, and then if they do, we're going to find them the buyer. And the best way to find them the buyer is to do our listing process to get them as many buyers as humanly possible. Now, Will, sometimes though, you actually do have the client that's looking for a specific area, and that makes it even sweeter. But a lot of times it's not the right buyer for the right house anyway, right? Even if you had one in the queue. So talk a little bit about that. Have you ever actually had the buyer and they bought the house that you've sent the golden letter for?
We definitely have. And we've also purchased property ourselves through the letter, right? You have so many tools in your toolbox, and it's not just getting so caught into one thing, which I'd say a lot of agents do when they reach out to me. They're so hyper fixated on one thing about the buyer or this and that. I'll tell you, we go on so many appointments, and somebody was shadowing the other day on an appointment, and we signed the listing. And I said, what was the one thing they didn't bring up? The buyer, right? So it's just something that just rarely comes up. And guess what? You could be the buyer. You could bring it to an investor. You can find the buyer for the home. It's getting over that objection. There's thousands of buyers in your brokerage that have signed agreements with agents at any given time. I'm sure we have 500 agents in our brokerage here in Maine. My team leader said there's over 3,800 signed buyer broker agreements in their compliance software. I can find the buyer. It's getting over that mindset. And I've also had it where the buyers purchase the home, we purchase the home. There's a lot of ways to do it, but it's not getting hung up on that.
Gotcha. So the next question that I had that I thought was fascinating was we're going to talk about the conversion metrics here in just a second, but I've got some simple questions when they say simple, people are wanting to kind of understand the nuts and bolts. Does it matter the type of paper, the color of envelope? These are the kind of questions I get. Do you put a real stamp, no stamp? So let's talk about the actual logistics of this letter. It's on a white piece of paper, typed on it, or is it purple with rainbow and little unicorns speckled all over it? Like what is the actual tactical look on this letter?
Here's a play in 45 seconds. It's an 8.5 by 11 white piece of paper that you're going to print out at your printer. You don't need to go anywhere special to get special paper or anything like that. You're going to sign your name at the bottom. Doesn't matter what ink you use. I laugh when people ask me that. They are genuinely curious. It doesn't matter. Scribble your name. I just do my initials. You're going to fold it up and put it in a white envelope that you buy right off the shelf from the store. We use self-sealing. It's quicker. It's more efficient. Then you're going to put a forever stamp on it. You're not going to meter it. And that's simply because a forever stamp, it shows life, right? It shows that somebody actually put something on there. You can either hand address the letter or put a label on it, right? There's pros and cons to both. And you're not going to put a return address. And people say, oh, you can't send mail without a return address. You can. The reason we don't send mail with a return address is because a lot of it will end up coming back non-deliverable, and we just don't want to deal with that administratively. So that's the play. Regular paper, hand scribble your name at the bottom, put it in the envelope, get a stamp, and let it go.
That is, there you go. That's what I wanted to get down to. And so, yeah, I think some people get caught up in the analysis paralysis of this, and they're going, I have to do this, and I have to figure this out, and I have to do all of these things. And it's like, he just gave you the simple thing. We're going to talk about how this worked. And so in the intro, you heard all of the stats. And so looking at this now and talking about, selling, I believe I've got here, you did 85, 82 units last year, I think it was, or whatever it was, for 50 million. Is that about accurate?
That's correct.
Yeah. So, and we know not all of those were from Golden Letter, but a large chunk was. And your average sales price there is 700,000. So we're talking 700,000 at, and we were talking about this earlier, the way that you depict your value, and so because you provide so much value to the seller, you're averaging usually about 3.5% on the list side because you deliver such an amazing seller experience. So a $700,000 price point, 3.5%. And now let's talk about the economics of the conversion of the cost, because even when we look at this, and it fascinates me when I explain this to so many agents, you gave me a rundown of kind of the expected conversion if you do this at a consistent level. So let's start with, how many letters do I need to send a month? And what can I expect from that process?
Yeah, great question. And it has changed based on the market. And we're very transparent about that. However, we know our numbers and we know how profitable this system is. So back in COVID, we could send out 100 and we would get a listing, right? It was shooting fish in a barrel. Well, guess what? As units went down, so did the amount of letters we would have to send out. That went up. So units down, letters up, right? It's really just a numbers game. So today, in May of 2025, we have to send out about 1,000 to sign and sell a listing. Through that 1,000, we will get 10 to 15 calls, right? However, the conversion's definitely gone down to appointment set. However, that's fine. We are only going on appointments with highly motivated individuals because of the market conditions. If we do not sense urgency or motivation, we are not wasting time going on appointments. Out of those 15 calls we get, I could probably find my way in 7 or 8 homes. That's not my interest right now in this market. I am looking for people that are ready, willing, and able. That's the thing. So 1,000 will get us a signed listing and it'll sell.
Okay. So 1,000 letters gets us a signed listing to sell. And so the economics on 1,000 letters with envelope, print, everything, what do you ballpark that cost to be?
You could call it $1,000 to round up. We have gotten our cost significantly down through scale. However, call it $1,000 for conversation.
Okay.
To make an average, my commission is around $18,000. So pretty good return on investment.
There we go. So 1,000 to make 18,000. And I think that's where, when some people hear this strategy, they get a little, confused or overwhelmed by it. And so again, looking at that, and the conversion is different in different areas, right? You're not in a high population area, correct? Like tell everyone where you're from and where you're at.
Yeah, I live in Portland, Maine. We have right around 70,000 people. It's the largest city in Maine. However, keep in mind, this is the largest city in Maine. So 60,000 people. I was in Denver last month and I'm like, oh my God, there's hundreds of thousands of people in that area. Right. We have one MLS for the entire state, and we have just over 5,500 licensees for the entire state. And I would say over 50% of them are in that greater Portland area. So very small market, one MLS, less than 6,000 agents covering an entire state. So very, very small market. The town I live in right outside of Portland, 5,000 people live there.
Wow. Okay. So it's about $1 per letter when all said and done. We send out 1,000. When they start to call in, and you said something there that was really fascinating about the 10 call-ins, if you will, or 7 to 10 that are going to respond. So the typical person calls back and says, "What? Hey, I'm interested in possibly selling. If you have a buyer, talk me through what that call sounds like."
Yeah, there's a couple different call flows. The first one's going to call just to tell you they're not interested, and that's totally fine. The next one's going to call just because they're interested in the question. However, they're not motivated to sell. So we call them tire kickers. They're really just interested in what your buyer has to pay, right? So we're not wasting time overcoming objections that really aren't even real objections. The third bucket is somebody genuinely curious that's calling and saying, hey, call me back. I got the letter about your buyer. Like, what's going on here? So that's really like the first A tier callback we get. And then the second one is, hey, we got your letter. We need to sell our home, which are a little bit more rare. However, we still do get the quote unquote come list me appointments. I would say we get out of 30 listings taken a year, we're going to get 5 or 6 that are just the come list me, no questions about the letter. So what we're after is the come list me or the genuine, hey, we got your letter, give us a call back. And then we start the conversation about the question we're asking and how we can help them.
Gotcha. And have you ever had someone that was upset, somebody that you talked to that, so give me a story. Talk to me about, so I got this golden letter and what's, I'm sure you've heard some weird stuff. What happens?
We have some funny voicemails that, me and a good colleague of mine, we're in this like group chat with other agents and we'll send them out, fire them off. And I mean, just laugh out loud, funny people just taking it so personally and, trying to call the state of Maine and say, oh, we're not listing our, I mean, just like not even funny, but just funny how personal people get about it. But I think my personal favorite story is somebody took the time to rip up the letter, mail it back to us with a hand typed note in the same format, hand signed at the bottom, just saying how unprofessional and they would never work with us and the prospecting efforts are not appropriate and their home will never be for sale until they die. And they mailed that back to us. So that's probably my personal favorite is ripping it up and mailing it and taking that time to send us a letter back. So well played to that person.
I love it, Will. And the reason I bring that up is because your mindset of that is keep moving, right? Like I've watched some people get a bad response and they just shut down and they're like, this strategy doesn't work. I got somebody that threatened me to call, like you said, you've probably heard it all, call the state, do all of these things. But when you really know what the rules are and it's going, I'm just trying to see if you're interested in selling. And if so, I'd like to bring a buyer to your property or I'd like to meet with you about selling. There's nothing illegal with that. There's nothing wrong with it. We can't help that there's crazy people that are going to interpret it some type of lunatic way, right? So how do you keep your mindset around that of just laughing it off? Do you just truly believe it's a numbers game and you just have always been confident in that way?
Yes and no, right? Like I'd lie to you if I said, oh, we just shake it off right away. Like we've gotten, 1-star Google reviews, which is really annoying because those are hard to get rid of. And that will totally sink your Google rating, and then I just remember it's like, okay, let me just go get 5 more 5-star reviews. Like I think that's the worst thing is when the public perception gets involved and people start to maybe harass you online. We'll throw that word out there because there's some crazy people out there. But then I just remind myself, every one I land is $18,000 to $20,000. And you know what? Getting that check for $20,000 feels really awesome. I could care less about the crazy people calling me back. And I'd say 99% of the time, we're just totally laughing them off because it is hilarious how much free time people have. Yeah, it can sting when, other things get involved, whether that's Google or they post on Facebook or something, which is maybe once a year that could happen, sending thousands of these out. But it's just remembering pleasure and pain, the pain of doing it and getting the negative response, but the pleasure of getting that money and helping a family out with their real estate needs.
I love it. And was there a point, Will, where you just had to kind of go all in and trust this when you first started doing, I know in our last conversation, your first 300 and then the next 300, was there a time where you kind of were like, is this really going to work? Like, is this going to actually click? Was any of that anxiety at any point, or was it just like, I believe in it and I'm running with it?
It was really just buying into somebody else doing it and having success. I'd say without that, it would be really hard to just believe this thing works, right? However, it was proven and it's already a model and a system that's out there. I just had to rip it off and duplicate it. So yeah, I mean, it was nerve wracking making that initial investment up front when I didn't have all the money in the world to do it. However, once I got that first one, I was just bought in and it was a numbers game to me. I knew if I wanted to get more quantity and quality of leads, I would just have to send out more. And guess what? I would have to go on more appointments to get better and sign more. So it just became a numbers game to me, and I just track everything I do. So at first, maybe a little bit scary, but it gets less scary when you do it more. It's just repetition.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I love how you've always just believed in models and going, look, if someone else has already laid out this path, if I just do what they did and not overcomplicate it, I should be able to have the same predictable results, right? Is that more or less your philosophy?
It is. I've always had a business plan. I've always known how many properties I need to sell every year, how many appointments, how many under contracts that translates to. So it's very, very simple. And it's all up to us as the agent just to do the activity to make the money. The rest falls into place if you follow your plan.
Right. And then we talked, I said this in the intro, but let's just so everyone can put perspective into this. So, got your real estate license when you were 19. And then by what, 21, you had already made $1 million in in a secular 12-month period as a real estate agent. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I got in at 19. I was going to community college at the time, also working real estate part time. My first year, I made six figures. Wasn't awesome though. I was working with a lot of buyers and I just didn't love it. Not a great relationship with the team I was on. Just old school mentality. I did learn a lot, but a lot of door knocking and kind of cold sales and just fear-based businesses are really hard to do when you're 19 years old and you're not the mayor of the town. And that was the model they were coaching me to. And I just didn't see a line of sight to achieving my goals. So after a year and a half of that, I said, I'm all set. I also dropped out of college and bet on myself. I went all in. I made $230,000 in 6 months, kind of doing it Will's way, which wasn't pretty. The next year, I hired a MAPS coach January to December. I did just over $1 million, $1,025,000 in GCI. Went to my first family reunion, turned 21, so it was that year. Last year, we hit 1.3 million in GCI. So still a rookie agent. Doesn't feel like I've been doing this for 5 years, but really only full time for 2 years at this point.
I love it. I love it. And there was a lot in there that I want to unpack as well, because I think what people struggle with is the same thing you just went through. I come into real estate and everyone tells me that I should do it kind of this way. If you don't know what you're doing, you should join a team. And I'm not putting anything wrong against that model. There's a lot of people that have success on teams. Then, right, well, the next thing they tell you is do a bunch of open houses, go door knock, go do all of these things. But it's rare that they ever tell you that you should go and attack listings first, right? And did you find that to be weird? And then was there kind of this wake up call where you're going, they're serving me all this buyer stuff, but all the people that are making money are doing listings. What was that wake up moment, or how did that experience make you realize this is not the right way?
Yeah, it was honestly writing 10, 12 offers and then, giving away a large share of my compensation on business that wasn't great. And I think teams are awesome. And actually, hindsight, I say this to my buddy. I'm like, gosh, I wish I was on your team when I started because I feel like, God, I would have had a running start and he's listing focused. I just wasn't. Teams can be great. However, the majority of them are, yeah, do the open houses, this and that. The thing that like clicked for me was when the Rainmaker, and not, he wasn't trying to be rude about it, but he's like, you just really need to focus on listings. And I'm thinking, focus on listings. Like, oh, thanks, man. I'm really focusing on listings now. Like, you're not telling me what to do other than just like call people. You call 10 people a day that ask for the business. It's like, that's just not reality, right? So I was like, you know what? I need to go figure this out for myself. You're taking all the listings and then just handing me the, scraps of the buyers. I'm like, hey, made good money. He made good money, whatever. No hard feelings, but yeah, go focus on listings. I'm like, awesome. I really appreciate that. So that's when I was like, let me go do this for myself and figure out a way to do it. And that's when I started researching it.
Gotcha. Okay. So then now we've got the first piece where now we've got consistent listing leads coming in and opportunities. We're kind of going to do this in reverse. We talked earlier about our pillars, right? Exceptional value, database. We kind of went straight to the lead source. Now we're just going to kind of reverse it and go, okay, so now you get these leads. And you said something earlier that really I wanted to note on is going, out of the 10 maybe responses that you get from 1,000 mailers, there's probably only one out of the 10 that even respond that are ready to do something ish immediately. What happens to the other 8 or 9, and how do they all go into the database, and how do you stay in front of them? What does the rest of the machine look like for the ones that aren't ready to rock and roll today, or do you just scrap the rest?
A lot of them get scrapped. If they're not ready, willing, and able to do what it takes, we do run into that a lot. And I'm very upfront with the conversation of what it takes to sell a home in this market. And some people just aren't willing to do that. And we'll put them in the database. We'll put them on a smart campaign. However, I'm not the kind of agent that's just like, hey, every 30 days, I'm going to call you, right? Like I'm not great at nurtures. I'm really not. The long-term nurtures, they're really hard when you don't have rapport with somebody. I'll be the first to admit that. When you're a cold person, and there's a buyer involved, the chances of you effectively nurturing that seller and for them to call you when they're ready with no pre-existing relationship is very, very challenging. I would say you really got to get in front of them and build some rapport outside of this like mailer. Otherwise, it kind of skews the relationship. So we stay in touch with them. I always try to get an email and at least put them on a smart plan, because you'd be shocked at I'd say 50% of them will actually open them consistently, and that is how you can stay in front of them. However, it's a numbers game for me, right? I'm looking for people that are ready, willing, and able in the next 6 months to sell a home, and the rest, they're back burner business.
I love it. Yeah, one of the things that I think was so interesting is you have a database. So again, did a 1.3 million in gross commission income, and just so everyone knows, that means dollar bills, revenue, checks in the bank, right? 1.3 million dollars, and you have a database of 200. Is that correct? 200 is how many people are in your active database?
Yeah, that is, people that I would actually pick up the phone and call today that would, I hate to say, appreciate the call. And that's not including like, past clients and all that. Like, of course, like they're in the database somewhere, but like my core sphere list is right around 200 people.
Gotcha. Okay. So 200 people. Excellent. And so in that, then what I was really taking notes on is going, so you're going, if they're not ready, I'll do some limited things, but I'm not trying to take somebody that doesn't want to do something and make them do something. I'm going to spend all my energy and effort on trying to get somebody that I'm going to try to get more people that are ready to do something now. Is that the simple way of explaining that strategy?
Dead simple, you hit the nail on the head, and it really just came from, I remember one opportunity I had where it was one of my first letter leads I got, and it took me a year and a half to get her to sell her place. And I just remember thinking, like, imagine if she just like changed her mind and was like, oh, you know what, I actually don't want to sell. Well, I just not wasted, but a year and a half of nurturing and calls and really just almost like harassing people. Hey, you ready to sell your house? No. Hey, you ready to sell your house? I'm not bringing her any value. Right. I eventually did because I sold the property. However, that could have gone so many different ways. And it's like, you know what? She probably would have just called me anyway because I did such a good job on that initial appointment. So I see agents do it all the time too, where they're just spinning wheels on things that will either never sell or never materialize. And then they end up listing with another agent. So I just said, hey, let's go top of the funnel. Let's just bring up more opportunities so I can focus on that top 20% of the opportunities that are going to convert the best and be the easiest to work with that will yield me a commission in the end.
I love it. And that's hard for people to do. They think that this is a collection game, right? That I collect more contacts eventually, and I put 40,000 people on a home bot or on a action plan that eventually they're going to do business with me. And what we found is it just distracts people. It distracts them from focusing on there's someone out there, you've proved it every single day, that wants to sell now. We know that they exist. There's someone that's gotten divorced or gotten a breakup or got a baby or got this that are going, you just hit me at the right time, and then it's just simple numbers game, right? That's how that play, I think, is so powerful. So now we have a 200 person database of people that know who you are, that are active in the system. We know how to produce from just pure economics the amount that you need to have to do this. So if my math is correct, let's just quickly just go back to it for a second. How many letters are we sending out a month back then, and then how does that look now? So when you first started, was there kind of a monthly regimen of going, okay, I'm going to send out 500, 300, 1,000? What does that frequency look like?
Yeah, I found as a solo agent back then with zero leverage, the first year I made $1 million, I didn't have a transaction coordinator until unit number 28. I remember that vividly. So I was doing everything myself and not doing a lot myself. I mean, there was checks not getting cashed. You can imagine everything that was going on. It was a nightmare. I was sending out 300 to 400. My base was 250. And then if I had more time, if I wasn't doing anything, I would just do letters. So some weeks would be 500, some weeks would be 250, but that was my minimum. And I just stuck with it consistently for 6 months to see that initial curve. And then the leads were consistently coming in. And then guess what? As I was doing that, other opportunities were coming in just off of the momentum and market share I was building. So it's really just set a minimum and stick with it. Don't let anything get in the way. Where I always have 1,000 letters at standby at all times. That's something my coach and I have been working on recently because we're getting busy with other opportunities coming in, a lot of repeat referral business. So 1,000 on standby at any given time, 250 a week minimum. Even if we don't need the listings right now, you can never have enough listing inventory coming in. And it's a 90-day curve of opportunities coming in. So 250 a week minimum. It actually is the same today. However, we are much more focused in where we're sending them now. So our conversion is actually higher.
I love that. So 250 a week. So again, getting back to the 1,000 a month. So we're spending $12,000 a year on golden letters to make, and I understand we're going to talk about the buy side here in a second. You did about 40 listings from these plays, right? So we're talking, $650,000 in revenue from spending $12,000 a year. Would you say that's ballpark?
Yeah, pretty much. I think last year it was like 15,000 because we pre-bought a lot of stamps for the tax write-off, but it was right around there, ironically. So your numbers are spot on.
So 15,000 to make 650, $700,000. So that's the piece of this. And then that's not underestimating that. Again, now we get into this last part that I want to really focus on is then one of the things that in our last interview that really I've preached about and talked about with so many people is you have to know what to say and how to say it. And so can you speak to it? So now we've got a great MOFR, we've got leads coming in. Was there a learning curve on what to say, how to say? Because I'm sure the first time someone was like, yeah, actually we are interested in selling. Would you like to come over? And you probably were like, yeah, I am. How did
Oh
you
God,
how
yeah.
did you learn that skill set, and what was your rhythm and of getting better at this communication process? So talk me a little through how did Will Van Wickler at 19 become smooth as possible at talking to sellers that are what, 65, 70 years old sometimes, right? And you show up, me and you both started, right? I started when I was 22, right? So I showed up and I had a full head of hair and I looked like a dork and I was wearing my not that you look like a dork, but I did, right? And
Oh, I did.
I'm wearing my TJ Maxx outfit that I could barely afford at the time with my Van Heusen shirt and my one tie that I could afford. And I remember being terrified going, I'm about to step into this people's house and they're 70 years old and I'm not. So how did you get past that? How did that all happen?
Confidence, you can't buy it and it doesn't happen overnight. And it's like going to the gym, right? Like I'm not this big gym buff, but it's a muscle you have to grow by doing it. So I wasn't just naturally this smooth or well scripted day one. I'm so confident now, though, in the value proposition I have and what I do every day. So it's really, really simple for me and it's second nature. And that's a script. When somebody says thank you and you say you're welcome, right? That's something that is scripted, right? And it's programmed in. So now all of this stuff I say every day is programmed in. My first appointments were really rough, and agents will come to me and they're like, how do I improve? And a lot of it is, you're not going on enough appointments, right? You're never going to be great unless you go on appointments consistently. The average agent only sells a couple listings a year. They're never going to achieve this idea of mastery, and I'm far from it. However, I've mastered my process, right? There's still things I'm working on. However, you need to get your volume of appointments up and you need to practice consistently. So I practiced the listing presentation. I practiced the listing paperwork, something no agents ever do of, can you read the listing agreement upside down? You can't read it line for line. You're presenting it to a seller. That shows confidence, right? Do you actually understand the listing agreement? I do, and I can answer questions around it. It just shows confidence and professionalism that agents 50, 60, even 70-year-old agents in my market, they're not going to be able to beat me at, because that's my game. And I obsessed over the practice. I did it every single day, and I still practice every single day. It just looks a little bit different. So I'd go into these appointments confident, knowing I'm the best agent to sell their home. And it was 99% mindset around that and skill.
I love it. And you had in our interview, I think what I remember was you were practicing an hour a day minimum on your scripts and dialogues. And how long? Talk me through that. How long did you do that for? So an hour. Was that a true story? An hour a day for how long until? Because that's what people don't understand. An hour is a long time. I mean, I've done the same
Yeah.
thing, practicing those scripts and dialogues. It is a long time, but you get vastly, improved in that period of time. So how much script practice, how long did it take to get to Will Van Wickler listing beast style?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was that year I went out on my own. That first 6 months, it was like May to December. I got a USB drive of old bold scripts, Diana Kokoska. For non KW agents, it's like this training program. And it used to be pretty hardcore with the objection handlers. And some of the stuff can be pretty corny. However, I would listen to it at, 7 o'clock in the morning, driving to the office. And that was, 30 minutes right there. And then I would at first, I would jump on the market center, script call. And then I quickly outgrew that. And then I started script practicing with other agents and then realizing, well, gosh, not to be rude, they just don't take it as seriously as, I do. So I had to start finding other ways to grow. And a lot of that was listening to videos or podcasts, of listening to conversations and objections. I would write down objections I would get on appointments and then figure out a way to smoothly overcome the objection, literally talking to myself, right? So people might think that's crazy, but that's practice. And then listening to that USB drive every single day until I had an objection handler and I could confidently overcome any objection that would come up at any given time. And that's actually how I found out about you. I was doing research on YouTube and there was a script off that you had a part in. I mean, I was just obsessed with the game of overcoming objections, and it would actually be boring when I'd go on appointments and didn't have an objection to overcome. I'm like, darn, that was too easy. Not to sound, egotistical, but I wanted the objections to come off so I could actually overcome them and be like, yes, I won. I just gamified it and obsessed over it and treated it like it was part of my job every single day, 1 hour.
I love it. The big word there that jumped out at me was gamify, right? I love that you said that, and it's almost like you're getting so good that you're actually hoping that they throw something at you because you're ready, right? And you're ready. Where most people go into an appointment and they're going, please don't ask me about commission. Please don't ask me about staging. Please don't ask me about whatever it might be, because then I crawl into my little hole and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. And you're going, I'm ready, and I'm going to kung fu smack that thing when it comes at me, right? Objection block, objection handle. I think that's such an underrated thing that people don't realize is, I say this all the time. Well, we get paid an exorbitant amount of money to talk, right? When we do it right, we get paid to talk. Tiger Woods gets paid to golf, right? Tom Brady got paid to play football. We get paid to talk. We didn't need to do it at the highest level, and people just underestimate that. And so, I love you for driving that home. I wish we had more time, but we're going to jump into our lightning round now, Will, and we'll definitely have you back again. But now we're going to get into our lightning round, and this is going to be what we call beast mode. It's our 4 powerful questions. So we're going to start with the first one. So in beast mode, we're going to start with the M. And so in M, I always want to know, what's been your most memorable listing appointment? Like, if you could look at all of them that you've been on thus far, what's the most memorable listing appointment that you've been on?
The questions I didn't know before you asked them to me. And that one threw me off guard, but I had a light bulb moment. I'm like, I know exactly what it was. Here's the quick rundown. I was flying back to Maine from family reunion, and I got a text from a past client saying, hey, I just gave your number to this person. She needs to sell. And this is Forside Road in Falmouth, Maine, Route 88. There's a big dog agent there. He sells twice as much as any other agent. This guy's the GOAT. Like, respect him. He runs this corridor. And my goal has always been like, I want a listing on Route 88. Like, how cool would that be? And I set the appointment via text because I'm like in the plane bathroom. I'm like, oh my God, I can't set the appointment. I can't call her back. She's like, yep, come over Saturday, literally the day I got back. And going into it, it was a $2.5 million house. And I knew she was probably going to interview other agents. And I started to think to myself, I'm like, it's a good experience, but I'm probably not going to get the listing. And, who knows? But it's a good experience. I kept telling myself that. And then I was like, you know what? Screw it. I am going to get this listing and I'm not leaving without that paperwork signed. And that is my listing. And I'm going to have the sign in the front yard and I can envision it now. It's going to be awesome. I went in there. I went over all the comparables. I got the listing signed. The husband said he wanted to think about it. I overcame that objection. It was right when the NAR stuff was going on and he couldn't understand what was going on. And I said, well, whoa. What do you not understand, right? Is there anything that we can go over now while I'm here in front of you? That way we don't have to waste your time. You're really busy. Went over the objection, got it signed at it was a negotiable compensation, however, a very strong rate. Sold the house in 2 days for $2.3 million and a check well over $50,000 was in my pocket. The sellers were thrilled with the service and I was thrilled to have my first listing on Route 88 set in a airplane bathroom. So
boom. I'm gonna give up the fireworks on that one, right? That's the fireworks going off on how cool that is. I love it. And again, just mindset, right? You're just like, again, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna, and you visualized it, which I think is powerful. All right. The O. What's been the biggest obstacle you've overcome thus far in your listing business?
Finding a way to consistently generate opportunities without spending an exorbitant amount of money or being in the business a long time. And it was just through getting creative and looking at things differently, where other agents would take, 2 or 3 listings a year. You probably know the statistic, but not many, to becoming a dominant listing agent and people wondering how the heck I'm getting this business. Like, they're questioning if it's family or this and that. And no, I hustle and I overcame the odds of becoming a listing agent under 30 years old with no past experience. So that's something I'm the most proud of. It's just my success in this business because I've earned it and I've worked really hard for it.
Yeah. And you're 24 now?
Yep, turned 24 in Vegas, family reunion. Yeah.
24. Yeah. So 24. So that's what I just think too. It's the limited belief that it's so, you got to have this level of experience to go on listings, and I love that part where you said about, you started on a team and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, you've got to realize that if you're not playing the listing game, you're hurting yourself. And it's just all these limited beliefs that you just have to get out of the way. But there's also a lot of work. There's an hour of role play a day. There's studying, your economics of your conversion level. It's all of that fun stuff. I love it. The next is the D in beast mode. What's one piece of advice that you'd like to deliver to the audience that if you could tell them anything, what would you like to tell people so they can be a listing beast like you?
Yeah, it's just figure out something and just commit to it. Whatever that goal or idea is, I'm not a goal guy, right? When people are like, oh, what's your goal this year? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't really have like these huge goals or huge ideas, but I could tell you I obsess over one thing every single year and there is always a way to hit it. You got to stay consistent. You got to stay on it. And that's my best piece of advice. And, nobody ever told me that, but that's how my brain operates. Like, I need to know what I'm working towards and I like trying new things out. So I stay very focused. I know what my objective is. That's probably the right word. And I'm on a mission every single day. And that's what keeps me operating. Because here's the truth, right? I don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. every day and be in the office by 7 o'clock and do all this crazy stuff outside of real estate with the investing and stuff. I make $1 million a year, right? Like, knock on wood, like, hope to keep doing that. But I could live off of, much, much less money. I'm 24 years old. I'm single. But what keeps me rolling every day is having that objective that I just want to crush. And I do it for myself, not anybody else. So find that one thing, whether it's family, faith, income, and just go after it and get obsessed with it.
I love it. I love that word obsessed. I talk about it all the time. I go, the people that I see that are not only just happy, but enjoying their career, they're obsessed. Right. And I see some people that are doing real estate because they want to do other stuff. They're like, I do real estate so I can fund my rock climbing. I'm like, well, then be a rock climber. Right. If you're not obsessed with this business and obsessed with, helping people and making a lot of money and taking that money and doing other cool stuff, like it's just, but it just drives me nuts. So it comes loud and clear through you, Will, is that you're obsessed. All right. And then the last one, the E in beast mode. What are you excited for the future? What are you looking towards next? Because you are obviously, whether you think it or not, very goal oriented, but what are you excited about for the future?
It's growth. It's bringing in people that can help me live out the mission that I have. And I want to bring people into my world and show them exactly what I've done and systematize my operation, right? Because I'm not special. I've just consistently done something over time, and it's brought me a high level of success. So I want to help others do the same thing and also help grow my world to allow people to come into it and help them make a great income helping other people in real estate. Because if I wasn't doing real estate, I don't know what I'd be doing, right? So I want to share that wealth with other people. And that's what really excites me every day is I'm just getting closer to that point where I can bring people in and show them exactly what I do.
I love it. And to that point, and we'll end on this note, you're looking for talent, right? So talk to us a little bit about what you're looking for, because I know we have a wide audience, and there very easily could be someone that's watching this right now. So what are you looking for, and how do we connect with you so that this person can apply to be part of the Will Van Wickler massive, industry changing saga that you're building right now? What are you looking for?
Yeah, we're looking for a great director of operations to join our team here in Portland, Maine, and we're willing to relocate for excellent talent. Maine's a small place, so we've had to cast a wide net. However, this person will be my right-hand man or woman in the business and really help grow the administrative side and the system side. And that's where we haven't had support so far. So I've done everything so far with a transaction coordinator and a virtual assistant, which are rock stars, but we're really looking to kick things up a notch and make a big impact and also help a lot more people. So if anybody has anyone they know in their sphere or themselves, we always appreciate a conversation and keep us in mind.
That's perfect. And we'll put all of that contact information in the episode and on, of course, on the video podcast on YouTube as well. So, Will, I just want to say, as always, you're one of you are our favorite guest. I'll just say that, and thank you for just being so open about sharing. I think that's what makes you, even more amazing than being a 24-year-old multimillionaire is that you're just willing to share exactly what you did. That you make it so digestible for so many people. But I think that you sometimes underplay the amount of work that goes into it, right? Because you definitely have put a lot of skill set building into that whole process. And so I hope people hear that loud and clear, that it's just not like Will just sends out letters, gets listings, and just chills out, right? It's like, it's a lot that goes into that, because if you can't take those letters, know what to say, know how to say it, when you get that objection thrown at you, and I can't imagine how many objections you get on a regular basis, because that's human nature, right? And get past them and just realize it's a numbers game, make it fun, keep driving. And what you said, the thing I hope everyone takes from this is, just don't give up on that one core. Once you find something, you got to commit to it and stop getting the flashing light syndrome and chasing all these other different lead sources, because it's just going to kill you in the long run. So Will, thank you. We appreciate you having you on the show. We will have you back again. And the last thing I'll say is, just thank you for being a listing beast and making sure that so many others can aspire to be the beast that you already are. And it's been an absolute pleasure. So with that, everyone, the wonderful Will Van Wickler, connect with him. We'll have all of his contact info before. If you have anybody looking to sell or buy in the Portland, Maine area, make sure you send your referral to Will. He will take excellent care of them. And if you're looking to be a director of operations for one of the most innovative and talented listing professionals or real estate professionals, make sure you connect with Will and see if you're going to be the right fit for his team. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Listing Beast podcast. If you got value from today's guest, take 30 seconds and share this with another agent who's serious about being a top listing agent. And if you're ready to take what you've heard today and actually have your own high converting, scalable listing system, book a free strategy session with my team at listingbeast.com. We'll show you how to go from good to unstoppable. I'm Brendan Bartic, and I'll see you next week right here on the Listing Beast podcast, where top agents come to earn bigger checks, generate more repeat and referral business from their database, and 10x their listing leads.